Hello, everyone, and welcome to our little chat today. 3 common mistakes that exercise professionals make while working with postnatal women. So my name is Lana Osborne-Parody, and I am the host here at Blast Fitness with Lana. And I'm super excited today to have my colleague and friend, Jessie Mundell of JMG Fitness here to chat with us about all sorts of things that we deal with in postnatal populations. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, so fun. I'm excited to chat through all this stuff with you.
Absolutely. So do you find that, when you take yourself back to 10 years ago, first training jobs when you were working with postnatal populations, that you really had no idea what sort of issues that this population was dealing with, what sort of specific exercises and things that they needed to get through that postpartum period? Is that how you felt when you first started out?
Yeah, completely. It was a disaster, a total disaster. I look back on it now and you know what? I wonder how those people are doing now, 10 years later. I wonder what they were going through at that time and the years to come. I was not equipped with the knowledge on anything pelvic health related or specific strategies or exercise programming wise to be able to train postnatal populations. I didn't know what pelvic floor dysfunction was other than incontinence. I knew a tiny bit about diastasis, but at that time it was that a 2-finger separation or gap between the abdominals needed to be fixed. I had no idea about proper or appropriate exercise for postnatal populations. Didn't know pelvic floor physiotherapy was even a thing to be referring clients to. So it's unfortunate that it was happening then.
Mm-hmm.
What is even more sad for me is that type of training is still happening now, 10 years later, when the information is so advanced and so much more readily available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, back to when I first got in contact with you through our business coach, Jill Coleman, and, I had postnatal populations in my class. I wasn't pregnant or postpartum at the time, but I remember it was almost like the universe brought you into my life at the right time, because that spring I had 7 pregnant women in one of my boot camps. And I was like, oh my gosh, this isn't just one person in my class anymore. And I feel like there's a lot more that I need to know. And of course, I was following your work and coming to your classes so that I could learn some information, so that I could give better modifications. And even at that point in time, I also had no idea about pelvic floor dysfunction or what diastasis recti was. I don't even think I'd heard about it until I started following your work. And it's really common. And I think that it's so, so amazing that we're having this conversation more and more often, and that it's becoming the norm. It's not just, postnatal is not just a specialty population. When there's a really high percentage of women that are giving birth to babies and then are going back to exercise, how are we considering postnatal populations to be something that's specialized when it's like a really, really big amount of people that we are seeing coming through the door with our gyms, at our yoga studios, at our Pilates studios, at our boot camps with our one-on-one clients? So
Yeah, I think that's such an important point to make, that we tend to learn about prenatal and postnatal exercise in terms of it being a specialty population. I was talking about this last night. The first personal training certification I did was Can't Fit Pro. If you're in Canada, you're probably familiar with that. Mm-hmm. And we spent maybe an hour on the second day in the afternoon going through prenatal and postnatal. Mm-hmm. That was it. And it's still almost treated as such in general certifications for trainers and fitness coaches. And even a lot of the specialized certifications for fitness coaches don't even do that great of a job with it. There's some that do an incredible job, but it's still just lacking so much.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that's a large part of the lack of information comes from not consulting with pelvic floor physios, because they are really the frontline workers that are seeing women who are having pelvic floor dysfunction or having diastasis recti that is either going undiagnosed and then there's back pain that's coming along with it, or they're seeing women that have gone back to exercise for 2 or 3 years postpartum and they're still struggling, still in pain, and that's the key, really the missing key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The way I coach postnatal completely changed once I started talking and learning from pelvic health physios. I mean, just completely changed the game for me. Just so educated. They work on the front lines. They know the pelvic floor function in and out, how we can manage intra-abdominal pressure, how we can best treat and heal diastasis recti. So they are so key in our work with postnatal pops in fitness training and any other type of health coaching that might be happening with moms.
Awesome. So before we jump into our 3 common mistakes that we're going to discuss, I just wanted to give everyone who's online a chance to know about your super exciting postnatal fitness specialist certification that is open for registration this week. I'm really excited because I get to be a participant this round. I've signed up and I'm so excited. So I have a little bonus I'm offering right now, which is everyone who signs up through my link gets to be one of my postnatal fitness specialist study buddies. So I'm going to be going through the content, obviously, with everyone. And each week I'll be sending out my own little recap email to everyone who signs up through my link, and then offering a live study, 1-hour study group with a ton of exam prep questions. I'm a huge nerd and I really like study groups. So I was really excited to put that together. So yeah, now, and I'll post up that link after we finish our broadcast today. But I wanted to jump into the first mistake that is so commonly made by exercise professionals, myself included. And I know you're really open with your journey as a trainer, which I think is really important, because this is not about, we're the smart trainers that know everything and like everyone else is making mistakes. Oh no, this is like, we also made these mistakes many, many times. And you have to get to the point where once you know better, you have to start doing better. And I think we do, as a population of exercise professionals, know better. So now we just need the tools to be able to do better for our clients, for ourselves, for our friends, and for everyone who's fits in that postnatal population. So my first mistake, and then questions to ask you about it, obviously, are I think that as trainers and fitness professionals, we aren't aware of what you actually can do in that early postpartum stage. So I'm talking like 4 weeks to 8 weeks postpartum. So what do you teach postnatal fitness specialists about what you actually can do in that early postpartum period? Maybe you've started to be cleared for exercise by your obstetrician or your midwife, and what in your mind can you do safely at that point in time?
Yeah, I love this topic. I think that we have 2 usual groups of people. One group of people who want to get back to things right away, starting intense exercise, probably too soon after pregnancy. And then another group of people who are waiting for that green light at 6 weeks, are not doing any movement or physical activity, and that is completely fine as well. But I know people are just a little bit scared, or they are a little lost and don't know what to do. And the trainer might not know what is appropriate during that early time period as well. Just can be a sensitive time in someone's body and their life. So for my clients, we do get moving quite soon after birth. So 1 to 3 weeks, my clients are usually starting their Core Plus Floor Restore exercises. That whole Core Plus Floor Restore program is included in the academy, so you do not have to reinvent the wheel. You can just put these steps into place. And then a lot of people are also starting back to strength training workouts, which do not look so much like strength training workouts that you might think of, or what people were doing during pregnancy or pre-pregnancy, but they still are more structured. They are a little bit more intense than, say, that first couple of weeks of really gentle Core Plus Floor Restore work. People are starting that anywhere between that 4-week mark, 6-week, 8-week. They're getting back into things that look a little bit more like exercise, and then leisurely walking as well. So I started back to Core Plus Floor Restore at 2 weeks post C-section and then strength training at 4 weeks post C-section. It's not what it sounds like. People get a little freaked out by hearing that, I think, but it was so gentle. It was very rehab based. I was using appropriate strategies, and that felt really good for my body. And it does for a lot of my clients too. What we don't want to see is going back to super intense exercise with high loads that can be just really potentially harmful and damaging to the body. But knowing that we can get some movement in even before we go get that 6-week all clear, we can be doing stuff if we want to be doing stuff.
I think that's so key, is that middle ground of, it's not don't do anything at all, like sit on the couch or lie on the ground and don't do anything. And it's also not, the workouts that or the classes that you went to beforehand, those are kind of often out of reach, especially in the first 6 weeks, but oftentimes even like 8 weeks, 10 weeks, or 12 weeks. I know I was obviously really sick during my pregnancy, so I wasn't exercising as much. I was spending a lot more time lying down. And then my delivery was really kind of traumatic and intense physically. So I had a lot of swelling and everything, and I just had no idea what I could do in the gentle phase. Luckily, I was with you as in your coaching program, so I had a ton of help, getting on the floor, doing my dynamic stretches, doing my breathing exercises, doing my glute bridges, doing my clamshells, so that I could start to put in place little pieces of the puzzle to feel better. And honestly, at that point in time, like the 7 minutes a day was all that I had to commit to exercise anyways. And I think that it helped to lay the foundation so that for me, like 8, 10, and 12 weeks, when I was starting to feel like I could get back into that gentle, safe, low impact strength training, it set that foundation for me and was a really good guidance. So it's not like that all or nothing approach, right? Which is, I think, where, as a trainer, that before I started following your work, that's really the only tool I had. Well, I don't know how to, give you something for where you're at 4 weeks. So we'll just wait, and then we'll get back into, doing push-ups and that sort of thing, because I didn't have the education and all of the ideas for exercise programming in that middle ground, which is so beneficial, because I think at that time, exercise can be such a powerful tool for spending a little bit of time on yourself when you've got such high needs of a newborn baby. It's a little bit of practicing self-care when, you might not be. You're probably not showering every day. You're not sleeping through the night. All of those other pieces of self-care are not happening. And exercise can be a really feel-good part of the puzzle that can be that middle ground, little bits daily.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Even when we approach this conversation, thinking about it from a pelvic health standpoint, I actually think the mental and emotional health benefits are far and beyond more important and are felt more strongly by people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes you're recovering so much from, or at least that's my experience, from birth, that you're not totally aware of what the long-term impacts are going to be on your pelvic health. So having that gentle plan to follow along is a great piece of guidance, so that you don't do too much too soon or do too little and then feel like you're playing catch up. If you have waited longer because of all the reasons that you might want to be waiting longer, fatigue, exhaustion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's move to our next mistake. Mistake number 2 that is really commonly made among exercise professionals, which is we often don't know where to meet or how to meet postnatal women where they're at. So we do prescribe the same old exercises, the push-ups, the front planks, the crunches, the squats, the burpees, the squat jumps, the sprinting, all good exercises for a certain body at a certain time in a certain life period, but not super helpful during that early, even middle postpartum, when you're, say, 10 weeks plus, 12 weeks plus. So why are some of these exercises that are, traditionally programmed exercises ones that we want to get a little bit more creative with or offer modifications for at this point?
Yeah. So We really need to take into consideration any trauma that occurred to the body during pregnancy, during birth. Really, there is trauma from going through those experiences, regardless of how the birth might have gone. Even if it was textbook, it was relatively simple, perhaps not easy. I don't know if that's ever a thing that happens. But even if the birth seemed great and the recovery is going well, we still have to take into consideration all the stuff that went on during pregnancy, all the hormonal changes, all the pressures that were on the pelvic floor and the abdominal wall. We have to consider diastasis recti, how it is healing. We have to consider if there is any pelvic floor dysfunction, such as incontinence, pelvic pain, pelvic organ prolapse. I should have brought my pelvis with me. These are things that we must take into consideration. That traditional type of exercise programming that you're talking about with higher loads, higher impact, sometimes it is just not possible for the body to manage that pressure or those loads optimally, and we can have harm that happens to the pelvic floor and the abdominal wall, not to mention the hormonal health factors that are occurring too, in terms of just how the hormones kind of rebalance, fluctuate. There's so many things happening to those postpartum hormone levels that a lot of intense exercise and extra stress to the body sometimes is not helpful for that either. So the exercise programming for postpartum is really an art and a science. Have to consider all this pelvic health stuff, all the hormonal stuff, look at someone's life holistically, and then be able to give them a program that they feel successful on and that also is beneficial to their physical body and their mental health.
I think that sentence of, postnatal programming is an art and a science is something that I had heard you say before I went through the postpartum period myself. And then I went through it, and I totally get the art and the science piece, because yes, there's the scientific part about, understanding that your pelvic floor has just carried a baby for 9 or maybe 10. You and I both went really long past our due date, so we were like 10 months. Pelvic floor has been carrying this load in the core for so long that there's extra stress and strain there. There's also that the hormones that are making everything a lot more lax and loose. So you've got that purely physical side. And then you've got this whole other piece of learning how to take care of a newborn, navigating life often from home. Like maybe you are not working, or maybe you're trying to balance some work and some home life. Trying to figure out your role as a mom, trying to read all the cues of your newborn, trying to navigate family and all these sorts of things that are happening, that I see now how talking about stress and mental health in the postpartum period is actually linked inexplicably with the physical piece. You can't have mental health without good physical health. You can't have good physical health without good mental health. So now I consider them one and the same. And I think that's the art of postpartum exercise programming is seeing that it is really, really important that we do this in a safe, effective, responsible way for our clients, because there's so much at stake for them physically and mentally. And it's not that it's super complicated in order to do. There's just certain pieces of guidance that I know you're providing in the Postnatal Fitness Specialist Academy that are guiding people down the garden path for how we can take this layer upon layer upon layer and make a safe and effective program for people to use.
Yes, 100%. Something that I have been. Oh, I think my audio is just a little bit weird. Can you hear me echoing?
Nope, I can hear you really well.
Okay, cool. Something that I've been thinking about a lot lately is how we do have such a responsibility as fitness and health professionals to build successful programs from that physical, mental, emotional health aspect. So moms can feel connected and in their bodies. If they are not feeling comfortable, capable, powerful in their bodies, how are they going to feel that way in their lives? They're simply not going to. So I think we have to bring it back to how the physical health affects the mental and emotional health too, and then how moms are able to parent, be in their relationship, experience their bodies postpartum. It's just all, you can't talk about this stuff without talking about all of this stuff.
Exactly. And do you feel like this brings us to mistake number 3? I feel like I'm getting there quicker than I wanted to, but it's the right time to talk about it. Do you feel like this is why the traditional discourse around coaching postnatal women is so damaging? And that traditional discourse is, this is how you get your body back. Here are my 12 tools for fat loss, after you've had a baby, those sorts of things, or like, how are we going to fit into our pre-pregnancy genes? I think that is because that's the dominant narrative that is being spoken over and over. If you Google postpartum exercise, it's all get your body back, pre-pregnancy genes, like lose the weight, fat loss, that sort of thing. Why is that I know the answer, but I'm so excited to hear what you have to say. Why is this such a damaging mindset for women at this time in their lives?
Yes. So damaging. Really quite terrifying, actually, the harm that it can do and the harm that it does. So it puts undue stress on moms to go back to more intense exercise, to go to restrictive eating habits, to simply put more loads, pressures, and stresses on themselves, for their bodies, and for their lives as well too. So this is why I think is so key. Something that I've been doing in my business is not talking about fat loss at all for moms. Mm-hmm. And people think this is so strange when I talk about what I do in my career, postnatal fitness coaching. And they're like, oh, so you help moms lose weight. You help me get back in shape afterwards. I'm like, not actually what I do at all. Yeah. Am I still good with audio?
Yeah, I can hear you really well.
I'm like echoing like crazy.
I do have one comment that came up. This is really good, but yes, you are echoing now. Yeah. I don't hear the echo.
That's so weird. Okay, let's try that again.
Cool.
Still a little bit echoey. I might, I'll see if it still happens, and then I might just take my headphones out, actually. Okay, let me know if anything weird happens.
Yes, and Maria just mentioned the audio is echoing here.
Still echoing?
You're echoing and cutting out a bit, said Tara.
I wonder if that's my connection.
Let me check.
One more time. I swear, the amount of tech issues.
It's been a tech week. I've got to say, I don't think I said too many nice things to my computer this morning. Okay, let's try that.
I think I'm still echoing.
Gotcha.
I might have to switch locations.
That's okay. We can do that.
Can anyone confirm if I'm echoing?
Thank you so much for everyone that's watching, for your comments and posts. It's really helpful. I don't hear the echo in this end, but there's been a few people that have said they hear you're echoing and cutting out a bit, but no one in the last minute.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead. Actually, no, I can't. That's too distracting for me. Okay, take a walk with me.
We will.
Through my gym. This is the home gym.
Perfect.
Let's go up the stairs. So last night when we were on the webinar, we also had tech issues in that the slides would not move at all.
Oh my goodness.
So no one could actually see what I was trying to say.
You're like, there's a lot of good information.
I swear.
Right now.
Okay, I'm not echoing anymore, so I'm gonna just stay right here in my kitchen. Okay, so
Maria said, yep, still echoing. Tara said it comes and goes. So we're gonna try kitchen.
Okay, sounds good. I think I'm okay, but again,
yay, Maria said echoing's gone now. Thank you so much, you guys, for typing and helping us out. That really is super helpful.
So helpful. Okay, where were we?
We were talking about, the damaging mindset of getting your body back postpartum.
Mm-hmm. So I think that it can put so much pressure on moms to want to jump back into this type of exercise that is high impact, high intensity, a lot of exercise, over exercising, and then also to be restrictive in food. And it can just be so stressful on bodies and minds to go back to go into this mode during postpartum when the body is under so much stress simply to begin with. So it can just lead to so many issues in terms of, again, physical, mental, emotional health, and how people are coping in their lives postpartum. I just think it really prevents moms from enjoying their lives and enjoying their babies.
Totally. I think that I feel, how many times am I going to say this during this interview? Now that I've gone through it myself, I feel like I could somewhat relate to this, having trained postpartum women before I got pregnant and experienced it myself, but just feeling the huge changes in my body over the last year. There would be months where, I was still eating really healthy, but I wouldn't change in body composition at all. I'd be adding safe amounts of exercise back in, a little bit more walking as I felt more comfortable doing it, and it was pain-free, and I was getting more sleep. So it was like a good amount of stress to be adding in. And there was like no fluctuation at all. And I can see that if I had been operating from the place that I am doing this exercise to achieve fat loss, or I am doing this healthy eating to achieve fat loss, that I would have been really frustrated. But my motto that I took was trust, time, patience. This is just a relatively small, although it seemed long, at lots of nights and days, period in your life. And the decisions that we make now in this postpartum period are kind of laying the framework for how our body is going to function in the future. Because if we're not letting it heal and we're not giving enough rest and recovery while we're having interrupted sleep and all these sorts of things, intense exercise is just an additional stress. It's actually not helpful as a strength builder, as a cardiovascular health tool, if it's just another stress load on top of the already super stressful pile. Yeah. It can be really helpful for mental and physical health if we are doing it in a way that adapts to what we are dealing with physically. So we're walking maybe instead of running at this point. We're doing body weight strength training, or relatively light compared to maybe what we were doing in the past amounts of weight. We are, even doing bilateral exercises like squats instead of lunges until we're ready. All those sorts of little things that I practiced just helped me to kind of live in that postpartum place instead of forcing the old way I exercised on myself when my body and my mind were just totally not ready for it yet.
Yeah, it's so powerful for other people to hear. Something that I say to my clients a lot is just let yourself be postpartum. Just allow that. Give yourself permission to be there. It's so hard for a lot of people, and I can completely appreciate why. But if you just keep reminding yourself to be in this stage, and it truly is a stage and it changes so much and so quickly, it can actually be really enjoyable.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of those things that when we, as exercise professionals, whether we're yoga instructors, Pilates instructors, trainers, whether we have an online presence or not, whether we're just talking about it in our classes or one-on-one with other clients, the more that we model this type of discourse, this type of behavior, the more acceptable it becomes. Because yes, we know that the prevalent mindset and the prevalent narrative in fitness space and postpartum is get your body back, lose pregnancy weight, blah, blah, blah. So how do we change it? We change it when we are the change. And I think that was another thing that was really easy for me to say that I was going to do before postpartum. And then, I was carrying more body fat than I had been previously. And I definitely had lots of times where I was like, am I going to be judged for showing up in this body that's looking a little bit bigger than it has been before? And it was the perfect challenge for me at that time to post pictures of myself doing simple exercises, to post pictures of myself that, weren't the most perfect, flattering, photoshopped, picture that I've ever posted. And you get mad respect when you just show up exactly how you are. I think the world is so craving that. I know I was, especially in my early days postpartum, I was like, I don't want to hear like all these people that are just bouncing back, because I am nowhere close to bouncing back. Like, this is hard. I am tired. I am fatigued. I'm doing exercise so that it makes my back stop hurting. Obviously so in love with your baby and going through this amazing transformation to become a mom, but there's so many things to juggle and navigate. We don't need, fitting into our old clothes to be another thing to juggle. It can wait.
Yeah, it can wait. And yes, we need to not even have that be part of the conversation for a really good chunk of time, or maybe ever. And it's okay if it's never part of the conversation. Again, I just think it's so distracting for moms. And this is something else I've been thinking a lot lately too, just getting interested in more things, more hobbies, more conversations, more social justice, racial justice things. Like, I never had the time to put mental energy into these things when I was so distracted by my body, when I was always thinking about the next meal and my calories, and if I ate too many carbs, and was that workout hard enough? Did I work out long enough? Like, you can't put all this mental energy into that space, that arena about your body, and expect to be thriving and flourishing in other areas of your life too.
Yeah. It's like that pie chart, the mental energy pie chart. It does take a lot of mental energy if we are counting calories, restricting, body hating, body shaming, being negative towards ourselves, all those sorts of things. We don't often realize how much it's stealing from other parts of our life until we kind of loosen the reins and step back from it. And then you're given all of this inner peace and all of this mental space to put to things that honestly are so much more important. So much more important. Yeah. I think that your choice to not talk about fat loss at all as a postnatal fitness specialist and someone that people look up to for good quality information in pregnancy and postpartum is really, really powerful. I think that there's just no room for it in your talk. And I like that, because then there's so much more room for the other stuff that are important, right?
Yeah. And what's funny, and you see this in our 2 Pregnancy and Beyond group with my clients too, is that it doesn't come up basically ever. And yet the Facebook group is flooded with conversation constantly and all day long. There's just so many other things to talk about. And I love that so much. And this, it's intentional to not talk about fat loss. In the Postnatal Fitness Specialist Academy, we don't talk about fat loss. There's no module on how you get your clients to lose weight after baby. Purposeful in the direction where I want to go in this industry.
And what's something that I've been thinking about a lot is that on the motivational side of things, is that oftentimes when fat loss or body change is the number one goal, it's challenging to make consistent, slow, but safe and healthy and honestly big changes that actually work long term. It's really hard to actually make that behavior change when you're so obsessed with, did the scale change? Did the measurements change? Does my progress picture look different? And those are totally fine ways of measuring progress, but sometimes life does not go hand in hand with progress. And so what are you going to do? Just not exercise because it's not giving you results? Like, I literally would say over the last 3 years, I've exercised consistently, like at least once or 3 times every week, with weightlifting, obviously. But I have made, on paper, no progress. But oh my gosh, has it ever changed my life, right? It's definitely helped with pain. It's helped with feeling better in my body. It's helped with stress reduction. So if I was only going for results physically, scale changing, measurements changing, that sort of thing, I would have been so demotivated. But because that's not at all something that's on the radar for me anymore, I'm able to actually just do exercise because I like it, because it feels good, because it's something that I'm committed to in my life. I feel more powerful. I feel more in my body. I deal with stress better, all of those sorts of things. So sometimes I think that we use get your body back as a motivational tool, because we think if we don't say that, then people won't be motivated. But it's actually the opposite. Sometimes that narrative is demotivating people. Actually, often it's demotivating people.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I just think it's so interesting, just the parallels in our lives over the last few years is so interesting.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's like a parallel universe. Maybe that's why half the time you text me and I'm like, oh, she's in my head. She knows exactly what I'm doing.
Every time.
Oh my gosh. So what would you say is your favorite thing about the Postnatal Fitness Specialist Academy? I know it's a hard question.
Okay, so I have two favorite things. One is all the guest lecturers and their brilliance in their realm, in their industry, and bringing them all together and being able to learn from all these different people. It's been the coolest thing, and I'm so excited for the people we're bringing on this session and the different topics that we're going to be having conversations about. It's going to be really cool. The second one is now watching these grads and the certified postnatal fitness specialists become leaders in this industry, and watching them help moms and hearing their stories and just witnessing their confidence. It's so cool.
I'm super excited because I think maybe with my own pregnancy and birth being on social media and stuff like that, I'm getting a lot more requests of, is your program safe for pregnancy? I just had a baby, or I'm returning to exercise. And so I'm so excited to arm myself with more tools, more exercises, more dynamic stretches, more information that I can know is it time to refer one of my clients out to see a pelvic health physio, or is it time for me to change something in their programming? We are talking in my own training group a ton more about breathing techniques, about better core engagement cues. It's almost as if birth and pregnancy and all these things, they challenge you to level up your coaching, because you need more tools to help people connect to their core again, to help people with better posture, to help people prioritize exercise in their life, because it's something that makes you feel good and it feels great to be strong and to take care of your body that way. But when you're a mom, it's like, holy moly, there's so many things on your plate. How do you find time for it? And it's a priority. Is making it a priority makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, what's been so cool is to see so many moms going through the academy too, and then using it in their own postpartum life. But then seeing how it changes how they interact and coach their clients. And that was 110% my experience too. How I coach people since being postpartum and going through pregnancy is completely different.
So it was funny when a few months ago, my mom and I were hanging out with another friend who is pretty newly postpartum, and we were talking about, pelvic floor tension, and do you feel like you're hypertonic, or, have you been to pelvic floor physio, and my mom was going, we were not talking about these things at all when I was having kids. You guys are so lucky. This is awesome that this information is available to you. It's going to make such a big difference in your life going forward, feeling strong in your core, preventing low back pain, all of these sorts of things.
Yeah, it really will.
So final question for you.
Yes.
What do you think as a trainer has been the most important thing that you've learned from working with pelvic health physios?
Oh my gosh, that's a good one.
There's a lot.
So many things. I think the biggest one is how much awareness we need to bring to the pelvic floor in exercise in daily life, even when people are not early postpartum. So like I was saying, when I first started out, I didn't know what pelvic organ prolapse was, for example. And now I know that likely 50% of the moms I am working with will have some degree of pelvic organ prolapse. That's mind-blowing. If we are working with moms at all, that's something we absolutely need to know, and we need to have strategies behind that to use in their exercise or fitness programs. So I think just learning about pelvic floor dysfunction, and specifically pelvic organ prolapse from physios, has been revolutionary in my programming and the strategies that I use to coach people with.
And I think if you are a trainer or a yoga teacher, Pilates instructor, or anyone who is going to be teaching classes, working with women, so just by way of working with women, you probably are going to have a number of postnatal women on the spectrum. You're going to be dealing with pelvic organ prolapse. I think my way of dealing with it before, 3 years ago, when I started coming to your classes and seeing that, oh my gosh, they're still doing a lot of really challenging, awesome exercise programming. Like, we're breathless, we're working hard, we're getting to muscular fatigue, but there is just different tweaks. Like, are we doing some exercises seated? Are we doing some half kneeling? What exercises are we doing for intervals so that we can get our heart rate up that's not going to add impact to our pelvic floor? So having the Postnatal Fitness Specialist Academy so that I can get all of those pieces of information and have all of those exercises at my disposal so that I can program them. Honestly, it made work for me more fun because I had so many more tools that when I was making up my classes, I was like, my gosh, I went to Jesse's class. I have like 6 new ideas, right? And I know that they're safe for a variety of different populations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that you're excited about it because I'm so excited about it too.
Oh, good. So good. So I think what we should do now is open the floor. We still got a few people online and see if they want to ask any questions of either myself or of you about the Postnatal Fitness Specialist certification, or even just if they are postpartum themselves and they have some specific questions, or if they're working with clients that have pelvic organ prolapse or low back pain or any of those sorts of things. I'm going to open the floor so you can just type into the comments. They come up on my little screen here and then I can read them in. There's a little bit of a delay here, so I'm just going to ask a question first, which is, how many of your clients, Jessie, that you work with postpartum are dealing with some element of low back pain?
Yes, a lot. Especially I find with moms who have toddlers and newborns, which is a situation that I cannot even imagine how difficult that would be. Oh my gosh.
They all get gold medals, all of them.
So much respect. So I think it is in those periods where no rest is happening whatsoever, or moms with babies who are just very demanding and need a ton of them. They're holding babies for naps, just up a ton during the night. Lots of low back stuff for sure. The way we address it is talking about alignment, breathing, and connection to the pelvic floor type strategies. And also just noticing how we're carrying our bodies in exercise, in daily life, and then referring to pelvic health physios as well. Totally. Knowing that it's not something that we need to be living with and needing to be in pain with and just thinking that it's normal. There is so much we can do postpartum to help relieve that pain. One more point on the pain side of things for anyone that is experiencing pain, knowing that it's just not always a physical thing that is causing that pain. I think a lot of the time the anxiety, stress, mental health aspects of postpartum can ramp up that pain as well. So that is key to consider.
I think that knowing I definitely experienced anxiety. I think a lot of it was wrapped up in just how my birth went, and it was really long and there was lots of physical trauma that happened, and I was like shell shocked, I think, for at least 6 weeks. I remember at my 6-week checkup where we had a midwife kind of says, here you go, here are your wings, fly away. I was like, I'm having a lot of anxiety today. It just started today because I think I realized what just happened. And honestly, just having that experience has helped me talk about it a lot more, so that there's not this stigma attached to it. I don't feel ashamed for dealing with anxiety postpartum because I think it's really, really common. And the more that we talk about it and we normalize it and we can share more tools to help each other out. And then also realizing how it does link into pain, right? Because oftentimes if people are dealing with anxiety, they might not be getting as much good quality rest, obviously tied in with baby sleep stuff too, which is significant. And then I think that's just another piece why, I tried to add more intense exercise even back into my schedule around 5 months postpartum. So my husband came home from ski racing. I had more time to do it, and it still wasn't right. It didn't feel good for me at that point in time. So I just went back to, my safe strength workouts again and my walking, and it really, really made a difference in me being able to sleep better. And then that helped me deal with the anxiety, and then hand in hand with that, a lot of my pain decreased as well. Mm-hmm. One thing that comes up oftentimes with my postpartum clients and low back pain is the sitting position. And I love how you touched on alignment, that idea of actually sitting on your sit bones and sitting like kind of on the triangle of your pubic symphysis and your sit bones, because so often at our desks or in sitting in cars going for long drives or sitting on the couch at the end of a long day, we tend to tuck that tailbone and round into our spine. And it's just not super helpful for that core and pelvic floor to be able to function optimally. So I'm really excited to learn more of your alignment tips.
Mm-hmm.
And use for everyone.
Yes, in the prerequisite section of the academy that people get access to immediately once they sign up, there is a video and an accompanying document on alignment. And probably the biggest takeaway that I want people to get from that is that we want to see variability in body position and alignment through someone's day and through exercise as well too. So for the new moms out there, if you find yourself always being in this one or two positions throughout the day, which is that bum tucked position, or always carrying baby in the exact same way, let's get more variability into that. And it's so interesting how the body responds with less pain just from that alone.
Exactly. Feel free, anyone, if you've got questions, to type them in and we will answer them live here. Remember, if you are watching this replay later on, you can always type them in and I will answer them as best as I can. Of course, I will refer to Jessie because she has a lot more experience working with postnatal populations than I do. I think that's pretty much it. I could just talk to you all day long.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
someone's going to have to rein us in.
2 hours long. That's what will happen. But this information, I think, is so, so key for trainers, moms, doulas, midwives, obstetricians, because we see how more people are exercising and more people are getting back into exercise postpartum, which is great. And I think that we just have a really big opportunity as exercise professionals to help women, postnatal populations specifically, with a few specific cues, exercises, and tools to get back into exercise in a safe, effective manner so that we don't have to go through, kind of the damaging effects of this is the way we've always done it. So this exercise programming is just going to fit onto our postnatal clients. It's not the best strategy at all. We can be doing better. There's so much information out there. We just need to open our eyes. Obviously, postnatal fitness specialist certification is a really, really good example of that information all in one place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, huge yes. Not only do we have that opportunity, but I think that you nailed it. We have the responsibility to be doing this for our clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so great. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And good luck with the rest of your week.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
You bet. We'll do it again sometime soon. Okay, take care.